Greetings, folks, and welcome to the Electromaker podcast. This is your midweek roundup of all things Maker and embedded and lovely, albeit in audio format. If you are joining us for the first time, this is the audio taken from a YouTube show that I record every week for the site electromaker.io, but the show works very well as an audio thing as well, where I talk about various Maker projects, various Maker products, and things like funding websites. Perfect example today, we're actually talking about two things from the same company, not on purpose, but Icewhale, who made the ZimaBoard, an x86 single board server, have just funded the ZimaBlade, which is a similar but different idea to that. It's a bit more customizable. And unbeknownst to me, in the middle of all of this, they announced the ZimaCube, which is a personal NAS thing. These are all things from funding websites that we'll talk about. But we'll also be talking about a community project for a cheap yellow display. These are yellow PCBs with an ESP32 development chip on them and a touchscreen on the other side that are very cheap to buy, but are very badly documented until now. Brian Lough, a fantastic YouTuber, has taken it upon himself to build a community around these boards to make them easy to program by anybody. We'll also be talking about a new baseboard for the Portenta and the English language coverage of Maker Faire Rome 2023, where we're not able to be there this year, unfortunately. And so that's quite a lot to get through. So without any further ado, we're going to go into the show. But just before I do, a quick reminder, this show is funded entirely by our own shop. We don't run adverts on our podcast. We fund ourselves via our shop. So if you are interested in supporting this podcast, head to electromaker.io/shop and take a quick look. We do stock everything from the first starter kit you might buy for someone as a Christmas present, right through to some quite specific industrial embedded devices and components. Do have a look there. And don't hesitate to contact our sales representatives if you have a question. We can get our hands on things that aren't necessarily listed on the site as well. So, without any further ado, let's get on with this week's show. We're going to start this week's show by talking about the cheap yellow display. This is an ESP32 driven PCB, a development board with a touchscreen on the other side. And this is a project from Brian Lough. I'm going to link this Hackaday article, that's where I find out about it, written by Dan Maloney, but this is really a Brian Lough project, who's a fantastic YouTuber who has been making amazing things for years. Brian's one of those people who, even if I've not been directly doing a project that he has been doing, I have learned how to do things by watching his projects, if that makes sense. Now, the cheap yellow display is this. It is an ESP32 based development board with a few inputs and outputs. There's a micro SD card slot. There's a breakout for the rest of the GPIO pins and dedicated breakouts for things like a microphone and a temperature sensor. It's clearly meant to sort of be like a mini kiosk idea. And the two things about it that are completely notable is that one, it is very, very cheap, and two, it is terribly documented. And this is exactly where Brian comes in. So, Brian saw this and said, yeah, this is a lovely little display, but it has a single zip file with just some random information in it that does not make it very easy to use. What if, instead of making a new piece of hardware, which is what he's done in the past, he made an ESP32 driver for matrix displays and made a point of making it as well documented as possible? What if he took that idea of good documentation and then put it on something that already exists rather than building something himself from scratch? Which is exactly what he's done. Spoiler alert, please do go and watch Brian's video. Brian is a fantastic YouTuber, and as I said, I'm a big fan. But if you go to the GitHub page, you will see that there is already a bunch of different things here to get you started with the exact cheap yellow display on that we are talking about. So I implore you to go and watch Brian's video. He will give you a lot more technical details as to why this is actually worth our time. Because there are many ESP32 stuck to screens out there that you can buy. But the reason that he decided this was such a good choice, it wasn't just down to the fact that it's cheap. There's a number of advantages to it as well. But I don't want to spend a ludicrous amount of time on this. I'd much prefer you went and listened to Brian's take on it. But just quickly, if you do head to the GitHub page, there's a couple of things that I just want to point out straight away. If you want to get one of these, there are various purchase links here. 3 AliExpress pages and 1 MakerFabs page, which also has quite a nice diagram as to what all the different inputs and outputs of it. If you want to see this thing moving as well, MakerFabs also has a little demo here showing how responsive it is. And I'm not sure what software they're using behind the scenes there, but as you can see, They're making it look very responsive indeed, albeit with a slightly sped up video. And $13.90 from MakerFabs with a micro SD card, and around 10 euros, obviously because I located in Germany, for various AliExpress versions of it. And I ordered one which was just over 10 euros, so I think... I'm pretty sure that the one I ordered had free postage and packaging. Either way, it doesn't particularly matter. Even if I had paid it like this, you're talking 14 euros for the full kit. And the second and final thing I want to mention before moving on from this is just that if you do head to the GitHub page in the link from Brian's video, which, as I mentioned, I'm going to link this Hackaday article. It is where I found out about it. It gives a nice rundown of it, but you can just click through from here to open Brian's video. Although that's very strange. I had that happen once before. When I was researching this section, this happened as well. I might actually send a little message to Hackaday just to say I think they've balked this somehow. Because if you search for Brian's video, if you search for Brian Lough's channel, it's the first video on his channel and you can open it and there's no problem. But when you try and step through from here, it says it's blocked, which is a little bit odd. Okay, ignore that. Click the link in the Hackaday article. It will open the video without any problem. There's just some weirdness going on here with this particular link. If you try and click through from that screen, I'm wasting time now. The second thing I wanted to talk about, as well as the purchase links, is the fact that once you have a board, there's a setup and configuration page, and then a basics page, which is just up to the level that you would expect from something like an Arduino. So it says, hardware setup. Well, there isn't anything to set up here. Just connect it using a micro USB cable. That it even comes with one. Software setup, the drivers and things like that need to be set up. So it uses the USB to UART chip, the CH340, and links to the Sparkfun guide for installing the drivers for that. You need to have the board definition set up for ESP32 in the Arduino IDE if you do not already. It gives you instructions how to do that. And it also tells you how to get the libraries. It tells absolutely everything you need to do. And then once you have that, there's a bunch of different example code that works with the Arduino IDE already. And I'm not even covering all of it. There's other libraries you can use. There's a bunch of different things, like people have been 3D printing cases for it. This is an ongoing community project and one that I'm looking forward to being a part of when mine arrives. But ultimately, Brian is the one that deserves the praise for this. It was his idea to take this an innocuous bit of hardware and turn it into a community project. As I said, it's one I'm looking forward to being involved with. And if you're not already subscribed to Brian's channel and you're only finding out about him for the first time in this segment, once again, you're going to have one of those wonderful moments when you go to a YouTube channel and realize that there is a long, long history of stuff that you will definitely be interested in if you're interested in our show too. Brian is, as I may have said at the start of this section, someone who I have watched on and off for a very long time. And even if I haven't been doing exactly the same level of projects as he has been, I have learned the ins and outs of how to work with various different boards. Like, for example, the WeMOS D1. I think I learned how to program that from a video he did about the ESP8266 3 or 4 years ago, or even longer than that. I am not fully certain. So yes, the cheap yellow display. I have got one. Are you going to get one? We're going to move on now to the Portenta hat carrier. And this is for the Arduino Pro line of Portenta boards. And there are 3 of those. There's the C33, which is the entry-level one, which costs, I think, $60 or $70 or so, right up to the X8, which costs about $200, I think. But that's the crazy Linux and STM32 on one little board. And of course, the H7, which I think is the one that most people are familiar with. And the thing itself is, as I said, a hat carrier, which is designed to work with Raspberry Pi hats. Now, we're on the always fantastic CNX software here. We'll be linking that in the description. But if you would like to find out more from Arduino themselves, it links out to their store, and there's also a video here showing it all off. Now, the main question when you see things like this is why? Why would you want something that adds Raspberry Pi hat capabilities to something like the Arduino Portenta? Don't they already have baseboards and things like that for them? And they do. But the Raspberry Pi form factor is ubiquitous at this stage, and there are Raspberry Pi hats for absolutely everything. But one thing that Raspberry Pis do not do that I think a lot of people forget is analog input. They are digital devices. They don't have an analog to digital converter on board. You can get hats for that. This cuts that out. In fact, you're seeing right there what I was just about to talk about. On the opposite side from the 40-pin input and output from the baseboard is a 16-pin analog header for working with the analog inputs and outputs from the Portenta line. And as you can see, it works with all of the, they're showing now, it works with all of the Arduino Pro line too. Yeah, I feel like this is just a really nice way of working with these Pro line boards, because they come, like, in a weird way, not dissimilar to the Arduino Nano. This is an Arduino Nano without headers. Which one is this? This is the ESP32 version. No, this is not. This is the NRF 52840 version. But either way, this is, it's a really nice little board, but it's castellated, or you can put pins on it, but it doesn't really have all the inputs and outputs showing. Whereas if you see this, this pretty much breaks out everything that you would want to do with one of these boards. It has a camera connector, it has an Ethernet connector, has a USB connector, and even has screw terminals on the side for working with a CAN bus. It's a CAN transceiver. So I could see people who were working in industrial automation or wanting to do some very, very serious things with their smart home being potentially interested in this. If you would like to find out more about it, as always, CNX has a full round up of it, including everything that it can do. They seem to think it only is for the Portenta X8, whereas the launch video makes it seem a lot more that is for the entire Portenta line. And I'm going to go with Arduino's take on this. That might just be a slight error, which is an incredibly rare thing to find on CNX. They're always absolutely spot on. Oh yes, and the price. It's $45 to get the baseboard, so you can get that. And as mentioned here, if you wanted to get that with the X8 together, that would push it to adds $239. So perhaps the X8 is currently $239. But either way, even if you have the cheaper Arduino Portenta C33, this will work with it as well. This is one of those ones where I am very interested to hear what people think about it, because there's a lot of people who are just going to say, well, why don't you just use a Raspberry Pi? The Pi 5, the basic version of the Pi 5, is not that much more than the Portenta C33. But again, as I mentioned, no analog inputs. I'm on the fence about it, really. I think this is a very nice idea. I'm very interested to know what you think. Now, last month I spent a little time talking about the ZimaBlade, the upcoming thing from Icewhale that was the follow-up to the Zima board. Although follow-up isn't the right word necessarily, it's sort of an alternate part to it, because the Zima board's still available, and there's a number of things about this that are really cool. But the ZimaBlade, and yes, I am lucky enough to actually have got one now. I haven't had the time to really play with it yet, but there's going to be some very interesting secret ZimaBlade projects coming up. I can't really say much more than that right now because it's still all being worked out. But the ZimaBlade is much more customizable in some ways. So for example, you can put a different RAM stick in here depending on how much RAM you want. I think I've got 8 gigs of RAM in there right now, but I could upgrade that to 16 gigs if I felt like I needed to, for example. And the reason I'm mentioning them again is because I talked about this throughout its funding campaign, and that funding campaign has now just finished. And unsurprisingly, they have absolutely smashed their goal. They were looking for $50,000, and in the very last hours of the campaign, in fact, they've added a chunk to that. I think the last time I looked, it was under $250,000. They're now at $259,000, and you can still pre-purchase this. The funding campaign may be over, but you can still get all of the purchase options. Now, I've talked about this so much on the Electromaker Show. I am not going to go through all of the details of it again here. I will leave links in the description of this video to other times I've talked about it, but just very briefly. There are two options. A dual-core option, which has an Intel Celeron processor, the 3760, although the 3760 is their own designation number, I think. But this is a 2.2 gigahertz turbo speed, and then they have a quad-core version, which I believe is the one I have here, and then the SODIMM slot, which, as it says, it's compatible with up to 16 gigs of RAM. It has an integrated 32 gigabyte eMMC for storage, which is nice. That's something that the old Zima board was sorely lacking, was some kind of storage that wasn't external hard drive or SD slot. And then things like external display and all that kind of stuff that I'm not all that excited about, because I will be using this as a headless box for absolutely sure. If you would like to know more about it, there is an absolute plethora of information on the page here. I'll be linking this page in the description as well, with some ideas as to what you might be able to do with it. Some information on Casa OS, which is their operating system that is a bit like, it basically is a wrapper around Docker. It installs different Docker things to your computer without you needing to actually understand what you are doing, which is something that I thought I would be slightly annoyed at, not really having access to under the hood. And I absolutely love the fact that since I've had my Zima board, I've just been able to plug in and go. In fact, the time that it's been on my desk recently, because I was talking about it, is the only time I haven't been using it as my home storage, and having to actually take hard drives upstairs and downstairs to the flat has been a very strange experience. The Zima board just deleted that. Also, if you would like to find out more about it, the various updates that they had, I think I talked about their FAQ, the community FAQ, the last time. However, there's a bunch of video reviews of it in the blogs here. So including Don's fantastic review. Oh, he's done a TrueNAS server with it as well, I see. I did not realize that. And of course, there's ETA Prime's version, and then Don's original video as well, I think, which is Nova Spirit Tech, who we haven't actually spoke about for a little while. But yeah, he's already built a NAS server with it, something that I may be interested in doing at some point, but I have other plans for my ZimaBlade first. So you may have already worked out where this is going, because to celebrate the fact that they have smashed their funding goal, we have teamed up with Icewhale to give away a ZimaBlade Advanced Kit. The ZimaBlade 7700 Advanced Kit has a few things to it. So let's just have a quick look at that. It comes with the quad-core ZimaBlade. It also comes with a few different forms of cabling and some RAM as well for getting started with. And so let's have a look here. A mini display port to HDMI port if you want to plug it into a monitor, USB Type-C cable and a SATA cable, and of course the RAM for getting started with it, and a power supply designed to work with the ZimaBlade as well. And if you've been watching the Electromaker Show for a while, you'll know exactly how to enter this competition already. You need to make sure that you are subscribed to the Electromaker YouTube channel, and you also need to leave a little comment saying what you would make if you won a ZimaBlade x86 single board server. What would you put in it? Would you change the RAM? Would you try and make some kind of crazy home cluster? Or would you make a NAS with it? Like I said, the Nova Spirit Tech video shows how it can make a fantastic NAS box. And the other thing that you need to leave is the hashtag, and the hashtag for this one will simply be #ZimaBlade. No spaces, nothing like that. And on next week's show, we will go through and check all of the different entrants and make sure that you haven't entered more than once, and we will be picking a winner at random, because that is the fairest way to do it. But yes, I am very excited to get started with the ZimaBlade, and as I said, I don't want to bury the lead too much, but there should be some more ZimaBlade content coming on Electromaker fairly soon that I'm excited to make. But for now, good luck. But what about the scoop competition, Ian? Yes, I hadn't forgotten about that. I hadn't forgotten about the fact that last week we started talking about the Blues wireless scoop again. I wrote an article on this a while ago. I am completely beguiled by the concept of lithium-ion capacitors. And in fact, I did a little secret test using lithium-ion capacitors that you will be seeing right here that I absolutely screwed up. And the exact ins and outs of that is something that will become clear very soon. It's something that has not been published quite yet. But yes, I did a little test to test how a lithium-ion capacitor would work, and I screwed up the test so badly that the results make no sense to absolutely anybody. I am hoping that whoever has won this lovely little lithium-ion capacitor and is using it in their projects does power saving a little bit better than I did. And if you are interested in finding out more about the scoop from Blues, we have a product of the week about it, where our resident gadget guru and in-house actual engineer, not just enthusiastic person with an attic, talks about it and talks about what it can do, what it can't do, and the fact that it has the staggering, 450 farads or something like that of power? 250 farads. Not microfarads, farads. It still blows my mind. I'm not an electrical engineer, but even I know that that's absurd. Anyway, without any further ado, let's pick the winner for the scoop. And our winner is Gary Fuller, a name I recognize, someone who has been supporting our channel and commenting on our videos since pretty much the very start. Gary, thank you so much for your continued support of the Electromaker Show. And yes, our random, very, very important and very good algorithm, which is just Microsoft Excel, has picked you to be the winner this week. Congratulations. Gary said, very tempted by the Jetson Orin, I must admit it, especially with the improved support for AI models. The fast e-ink display would make Kindles so much better. I would use the scoop for some kind of in-car sensor system. Not sure exactly what I'd want to sense, but could be fun. Gary, I very much look forward to hearing what you get up to with the scoop. If you do manage to get some kind of super low power system together that would work well with something like a lithium-ion capacitor, please do document it on the Electromaker project page. I would be very interested to see what you come up with. Thank you to everybody who has entered the competition, and also thank you very much. This is completely separate from the competition, but thank you so very much to Yiftach Beer, who basically said, don't be so hard on myself. Because last week when I was talking about the NVIDIA deep learning stuff and the AI stuff, I did mention that sometimes I do feel a little bit lacking in the intelligence to talk about it, and this is someone kind of saying like, yeah, you're doing a good job. Thank you very much for that. Anyway, Gary, congratulations, and everyone else, good luck with the ongoing ZimaBlade contest. So Maker Faire Rome has happened once again, and unfortunately this time we weren't able to be a part of it. We travelled to Maker Faire Rome in 2022, and it was a fantastic experience. It's one of my favourite things I've been to. I've been to a few different symposiums and conferences for embedded tech, but there's something specifically about the Maker Fairs that is very special. The fact that it's aimed at young people, the fact that the innovation is not just sort of cutting edge technology, but is based in a lot of fun and a lot of passion. Yeah, I really do love the events. We were not able to get to that event this year, unfortunately. So what I've done instead is just collated just a few of the English language sources of what you can find out about what happened there this year. And I'm going to just cover a couple of things from each one of those sources and then link them all in the description so you can look at them at your leisure. And we're going to start with the Arduino retrospective of what happened. And it does seem like Arduino brought a lot more to Maker Faire Rome this year than they did last year. It was still a very exciting time last year because it's when they launched the Make Your Uno kit, which is the solder kit for putting an Uno together and then turning it into a synthesizer. It's also where we got the chance to have a chat to Massimo Banzi about it all, who just seems like a thoroughly lovely bloke. I'd love to have a much longer conversation with him one day about all this kind of stuff. However, this time around, they had an Arduino village with a bunch of projects, and I'm just going to quickly draw attention to a couple of them. Firstly, this is one that you may recognize. This is an Arduino Nano ESP32 with a circular screen that's playing Space Wars. And this gives away what we're talking about here. Volus projects. We talked about this on the Electromaker Show a while ago. We've been following Volus for ages, and I'm so happy that they took his project and presented it at the official Arduino table. That's got to feel really good. That's got to feel very validating as a maker, and I'm very, very glad to hear that that has happened. And if you're interested in finding out more about this, there's a link from the Arduino blog that I'm linking here out directly to that video. And the channel is one we've talked about on here before. Way back, he made, I think, an Arduino-powered calculator, or maybe it was even his own circuit board. I'm not certain. That was, basically an... I was going to say ESP32. No, that's way too powerful. An 80-mega 328p based calculator. One of the earlier projects on the channel. And the channel has just exploded since then. Absolutely deservedly. There's various other things at the Arduino Village. This uses the Arduino Giga display we talked about recently on the Arduino Giga, Wi-Fi R1, and NROV, which is a remotely operated vehicle with the Arduino Nano ESP32. There's links to both of the creators' YouTube channels here, which are in Italian. I did not find any evidence of these actual projects, though, so maybe these are things that they were trying to get ready for Maker Faire and they haven't had time to document yet. And the final thing I wanted to mention is this memory game, which uses an Arduino Uno and a few components. And this is from Greta Gali02 on TikTok. There are so many fantastic new creators who are putting short videos out on things like YouTube and TikTok who aren't necessarily doing the longer projects that I am used to. I sort of grew up in the era of learning about all this stuff from mostly YouTube channels, and even the way that works has changed significantly recently. It used to be just purely information-dense videos were the thing, and now there's a much higher production level. To be a good YouTuber these days, apparently you have to have television-level production, which we don't have. But anyway, this is a video from Greta. Since it's in Italian, I'm going to keep the sound off, but I will... I have translated what she says, and so I'm going to try and say it along with her. This could be terrible. Arduino has just released its new board, the Arduino R4, which is quite minimal. This is the minima version. And also a Wi-Fi version. And now I don't have the Wi-Fi version with me yet. I'll bring it to you in an upcoming video. So let's discover it together and create a quick project. It's almost the same size as the R3, even in terms of pins, and some notable features include 16 times the memory of the R3, going from 2 kilobytes to 32 kilobytes, and supports up to 24 input pins and many other characteristics. And look at the cute heart soldered onto the board. To show that open source is love. This translation isn't perfect. Today we're going to create a memory game with lights. Here are the materials you'll need. The Arduino, 4 LEDs, 4 resistors and 4 buttons. The components should be assembled in this way, but there's a more detailed video tutorial on YouTube. A little bit of code, and let's upload it and test it. And this is showing it in action. So this is a memory game. I have written tutorials on how to create a memory game. The thing I like about it is that these are young creators who are using new social media as part of their output for this. I really enjoy that. And I don't really use TikTok much outside of making TikTok content for Electromaker, but the little time I have spent on it, I've just liked this kind of stuff, which means that when I do occasionally look at it, it just shows me people who are making projects like this. So yes, I just thought that was worth mentioning, especially if you have younger friends or people who are on TikTok. I'm sure in just a few short years, my children will be on TikTok or whatever it is by then. Just to let them know that if they follow creators who are making stuff like this, the algorithm will kick them up awesome projects and they get to have exactly the same experience as we have had on YouTube. Anyway, I got a little bit preachy about how happy I am that there are makers on TikTok, which you probably already knew. But anyway, this blog will be linked in the description of the video. And we're going to move on to the Irish Tech News coverage of it. And again, Irish Tech News covered an entirely different set of projects, but they again were there in person. And if you'd like to find out everything they saw, you can head to the link in the description to their roundup. I am going to concentrate on just one project, which was Haptic Synaptic. And this is a very new group of people. And it actually took me a minute to work out what was going on here. And they do have a website, but it is under construction. They also have a Facebook page and an Instagram. And by sort of digging through and working out all of these different things, I sort of got an idea as to what they are trying to do. So the basic premise, I think, and I hope I'm not getting this wrong, if someone from Haptic Synaptic sees this and I say this wildly wrong, please do tell me, is that they are trying to show that tech can be incorporated into things that are sort of traditionally girly. And obviously, people are going to have opinions about what that means. But the simple fact of it here is that if you take a bracelet making system, I can't view that, that's very annoying. If you take a bracelet making system to a massive thing like Maker Faire Rome, and you say, come over here, you can make bracelets for free, and this robot will wind the bracelets for you and show exactly how that robot works, you are getting people into the idea of robotics who might not be into it normally. Now, I think that is what is going on here. As I said, unfortunately, I wasn't there to speak to them myself. I would have loved to interview them about this. Maybe next year we will be able to meet them. Maybe they'll be there again with a much bigger idea of what they are doing. The website, as it says, is still currently being built. But yes, Haptic Synaptic seemed like a really nice idea, getting robots to build bracelets for girls, and they're on this particular browser, I don't have Instagram logged in, so I can't watch any of the videos, but if you do have Instagram, they do have some quite interesting posts. Like one of them is like a video with a load of comments kind of saying, where are all the girls? There's no girls here. Why are there no girls? The girls are here. They're just over here because we're showing them how tech can be interesting to them. Again, I'm sure people will have opinions about that. So finally, the Helsinki Times had an article about it, and it seems like once again they sent someone over to actually be there in person. And the one project that I wanted to focus on from here, they had some really interesting ones, by the way. I almost thought I would talk about Cody Art. Which is, advanced supervision and scanning. What does it say? Advanced supervision, scanning and control system tailored for the digitization and intricate analysis of artworks. Very interesting idea. But the one that I decided to talk about here was Weaving, which is an AI camera that recognizes human joints and is designed to work with physiotherapists. Now, their website is in Italian, but I've translated it just here. But I think nothing shows it better than this video. You can see, you'll be used to this sort of pose estimation before, but this is incredibly high definition pose estimation that is being coupled with presumably physiotherapist-backed ideas as to what kind of range of motion someone should have. So if you can imagine being in a position where you could sit someone down in a chair and get this pose estimation and get the figures straight out of it, and provided the accuracy was high enough, you would be able to get some actual solid data to work with in order to give someone the kind of physiotherapeutic exercises they need to get their range of motion back. Perhaps I found this one quite interesting because I have a much more reduced range of motion in one of my feet than the other after a running injury that never quite healed. So I am aware that this was a very quick whip through of not even all of the content from 3 separate English language blogs, but I wanted to give you a wide range of options of places that you could find out about Maker Faire Rome 2023. If you would like to read it at a less breakneck pace and at your own leisure, I will be linking the Arduino blog, the Irish Tech News blog, and the Helsinki Times blog in the description of this video. And finally on this week... Sorry, there's a crow. I can't. How can I show this to you? I can't because he's gone. There's a crow just above my window who perches there frequently and just shouts at the other crows. And he just slid down the window. It's a slanted roof up here. Okay, finally on this week's show, this was not planned by any means. Just completely coincidentally, the ZimaBlade funding campaign ended just as I was made aware of the ZimaCube. So Icewhale are not slowing down, it seems. This is a personal NAS system, and it follows all the same ideas as all the Icewhale boards we've seen so far. We had the Zima board and we've had the ZimaBlade. This is an x86 NAS box designed specifically to be a NAS, whereas you can use the ZimaBlade as a NAS. This is what this is designed for. And I'm going to spend no time on it at all right now because we'll be coming back to this when this goes live. But yeah, in short, you can see if I move myself out of the way here, up to 164 terabytes of storage, a 12th gen Intel Core i5, GPT for all your files. That's interesting. Open and modular design, quad 2.5 gigabyte Ethernet networking, and 2 PCI slots, quad four M2 slots for SSDs. That's interesting. And dual Thunderbolt 4 as well. And yeah, I mean, Cloud Your Way says pretty much everything you need to know about this project. I think this is the idea of having a cloud that you can have run entirely the way that you want to run it. And of course, it will come with Casa OS, which is their own operating system, which, as I mentioned earlier in the show, is a sort of wrapper around Docker. But it's an x86 NAS. You can do whatever you want with this. You can install whatever server software you want on it. I'm sure you could probably cluster it with something else if you wanted to, but you probably don't need to if you have the i5 processor on board. Yeah, this is, again, maybe a less hacker-oriented product they're going for here, but I'm going to leave it at that for now. There's a link to this pre-launch page in the description of the video, and there's no more information on it yet. Well, I mean, there's information on it, but there's no more information about price and all this kind of stuff. It's coming soon to Kickstarter. When it comes to Kickstarter, we'll definitely look at this one again. But yeah, I got sort of blindsided by that. I knew I'd be talking about ZimaBlade this week, and then just as I was gathering the last-minute bits for the show, I had a note saying, have you talked about this yet? ZimaCube? Sounds a little bit familiar, doesn't it? That was the show for this week. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for all of the support you continue to show the podcast. I hope that was a clean audio take for the show. Every now and again, I do get a lot of background noise because I'm right at the top of a building in a very busy part of my town. And outside they are currently pile driving into the ground to get to old pipes that they can replace or something along those lines. There's quite the building site outside my window currently. So hopefully that has not affected the listening too badly. As always, I'm very interested to hear what people think of what I cover on the show, how I cover it, anything I get right or wrong, anything you'd like to hear more of or less of. And as always, the best way to contact me is either via our Discord server, you will find a link to that in the show notes, or via email, and it's just ian@electromaker.io. And finally, if you've enjoyed the show and there's a certain thing in the show you'd like to know more about, every single podcast that we put out has a list of what I talk about in the show notes, and the links from there will take you directly to those things. So it's just something worth bearing in mind if you'd like to find out more information, even if you are on the go, as it were. If you open your podcast app and just click on the notes for this show, you will find links to everything that I am talking about if you would like to find a little bit more information about it. With all that said, it is time for me to get going, and so I hope you have a fun, safe and creative week. I look forward to chatting to you next time.